I heard that. Yeah, that's the perfect spot. Go down just a tiny bit, Carrie, right there. How's that for you, Patrick?
Yeah. All right.
Tell me when you're set, Patrick.
And we're ready.
Go ahead and mark it, please.
Phil Butler, interview, tap code, take 5.
Okay, so Phil, you have a story about the tap code?
Yes, the story goes back to the briar patch where we have all these little huts with 2-man cells and 4 cells in each hut.
I'm sorry, Phil, there's a jet going overhead. I just want to wait till that clears because I want to get this really clear. So you were in Briar Patch.
So this is the briar patch, and I think the year is 1967, if I recall correctly. But anyway, there were all these individual huts in the briar patch, which I'm sure other guys have talked about. And 2-man cells, 4 cells to a hut, and walls arranged so that you couldn't see or talk to each other in these huts. So we were happily tap coding along everywhere, and we were doing it, from hut to hut by banging on things and so forth. And the Vietnamese finally picked up on this and got the idea that there was some way that we were probably communicating with this stuff. So I guess I may have been known as a primary communicator or something. I don't know, it was because somebody else was tortured and mentioned my name or whatever. I have no idea. Or maybe I just did it to myself somehow. But of all the 50-some guys in the camp, one day we had heard and gotten from tap code that they had taken 2 guys out from the other side of the camp and separated them with the prisoner's dilemma and tortured them to reveal the tap code. And they did. They revealed, AFLQV and the 5 matrix 25 and how you do it, and that the call-up signal was shaving a haircut, and they got all this stuff from these guys. So we heard that this had happened, okay? And then one night, they came down and took my cellmate, Hagen Lockhart, out to an interrogation. At the same time, they took both guys out in the cell next to me, and of course I'm listening and I'm hearing everything that's going on, and your hearing becomes very acute. I knew exactly that they had taken 2 guys out. And then the oddest thing happened. I heard them shuffling something like a chair and something like that into the room, it sounded like. And then I heard Vietnamese being quietly talked on the other side, and then finally I heard on the wall something that sounded kind of like this. I thought, listen to that, and what the hell? And then I heard, what in the world is that? I heard. And it was shaving a haircut by the camp commander. And they just ain't got rhythm. Shaving a haircut evidently meant nothing to the Vietnamese. They never heard of it. They don't know what. And that was our call-up signal that we always used, because we knew in enemy territory they probably had no clue about what shaving a haircut was. And the answer to it, of course, if you had somebody on the other side of the wall and you tap, and you got back something like, you knew, uh-oh, that's not an American over there. Because any American is going to answer, 2 bits. Give the old 2-bit response, shaving a haircut, 2 bits. And that comes down from jazz music, the end of a song in jazz music back in probably the teens or 20s, when jazz came down the river from Chicago to New Orleans. And the guy on the horn would toot out, shaving a haircut, and blap, blap, 2 bits. A funny way of ending a song. Every American has that embedded in their soul, but the Vietnamese, they did not.
So talk to me a little bit about the tap code, how you communicate, and give me an example of something you might communicate through the wall.
Well, shaving a haircut. I'm kind of sideways here. I normally would have been around like that to a wall, but shaving a haircut, and you get a 2-bit response on the other side. And if it's somebody that you hadn't talked to before and you knew they knew the tap code, you go, that's HI, hi. And back would come hi. And so the next thing you know, you would tap out, I am Phil Butler. And he would tap out, I am, Everett Alvarez, or, whoever it was on the other side. And on one occasion, and this was later on at Little Vegas, I had a guy next to me, and I was in an interrogation room, and it was an all-night thing. But the Vietnamese had left me, and there was a guy in the cell next to me, and he was a new guy. And we had a special thing to do with new guys, because new guys came in, if you went, and then the new guy got to the wall and went, he didn't know what to do after that. So we did something that went like this. This is with just a new guy. Now, Navy guys pick that up right away. Air Force guys take a little longer. But what I'm doing there is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. So after a day or two, the guy on the other side of the wall, who, by the way, was an Air Force guy, he was an Air Force major, and he got it, the light went on, and he came back with, hi, back to me, and I knew he had it. So then with that horrible system, I tapped over to, I am Phil Butler, and he tapped back, I am, his name, and I tapped back, we have a better code. God forbid, we have plenty of time. You arrange the alphabet in a 5x5 matrix, throw out the letter K, go down the left side, then across, and as soon as he got the picture on it, we were off and running with the tap code. Of course, it took months to get, really up to speed with the thing, but still, I had a guy I could talk to. Well, the funny part of this little incident that I recall was, after all this hours and hours and hours, and I got him, he got the tap code and so on and so forth, and we started talking, got to talk to each other. I sent him my name, he sent me his name. And this is like 3 years into my incarceration, okay? He taps back, when do you think the war will end? I tap back, I think some profanity. I did. I tapped back to him and I said, you just got here, you tell me. When will the war end? This guy tapped to me. I said, I've been here 3 years, and he wrote back, 3 years? And I hear from the other side, I go, oh! I heard this thing on the other side of the wall. So that was just a little anecdote of the tap code. But we also, of course, later on, guys came up with a mute code, A, B, C, D, E, F, and guys got really good at that too, so you could send that to somebody across the camp.
EF with your hand again?
Pardon me?
Ask him to do
Oh.
Could you do that again with your hand?
Oh.
Bill's gonna tighten in on your hand.
So A, B, C, D as in damn you, E, F, and so on. It went through the whole alphabet of signals, done with the right hand. And some guys got really, really good top communicators later on in the prison system, where we had buildings of guys and building on the other side. Top communicators would do this stuff like a flash. I even at my very best, I couldn't possibly keep up with them. It was like being fluent in a language. And so guys in cells, when we were in the big camp in cells with 40 or 50 guys, we had one guy that was a communicator, top communicator in each cell, and he would stand on stacked up blankets, and other guys would be around the bottom of him holding him, and he'd be sending to a top communicator on the other side, and then when news came in, he'd be sounding off letters to somebody down here and messages for people, whatever it was, you know, all kinds of dumb stuff that we had to send back and forth to each other.
Amazing. And I think you can explain that it wasn't just tapping out whole words. You had abbreviations for everything, and then there was
All right.
a way that the other person would let you know if you were part way into a word.
Sure. They is TY. TY, and goodbye was CU. CU. That was goodbye. You got CU, and then you see you, and then you go. The other guy would go like a big goodbye, you know. So you could actually almost read emotions into some of this kind of stuff. And if you tap to somebody long enough, you could actually know their tap like a Morse code operator does. And I know there are guys, POWs, that if I heard their tap to this day, I could probably tell you who they are, just from their personal, you know, speed, signal, something about the way they did it, like Morse code. You got used to it.
Amazing.
And it was impenetrable to the North Vietnamese. Why was that?
Well, it was this tap code wasn't impenetrable in the sense that they didn't know what it was, because if they caught you tapping, they'd take you out and beat you up for communicating, because they didn't want you to communicate. But they never could do it, because what are the Vietnamese interrogators going to spend the time to get up to speed with the tap code? And like I said, you know, they couldn't even do a decent shave and a haircut, so it was hopeless for them. All they could do was try and intercede and stop us from doing it if they could catch us at it. If they could catch you at it, they would take you out and beat you up. But we had all kinds of different ways to keep from getting caught. We'd always have a lookout, somebody peeking out through a crack in the door or something, to watch for people coming or to see if a guard was outside listening.
And I was told that there was times when listening on the yard was like listening to a cacophony of crickets, like all the tapping was going on.
Oh yeah, tap code's going on all over the place. It'd drive you crazy. In fact, guys used to say we'd go to sleep at night hearing tap code in my brain. You know, turn it off, stop the tap code from going in my brain, because that's how everybody talked and passed all this stupid information, all these things like bets on when the war is going to end and what's your go home date, and you know, and who's in your family and where'd you go to school, and you know, does anybody know the word in Spanish for, you know, whatever, and so on and so forth. It just went on and on and on. You know, once it got unleashed, then everybody was tapping all the time. And
I know you're tired, sir. I just wanted to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
About, and I don't know if we should pull out the board
it's okay.
quickly. Okay. Ballroom dancing.
Paul, what?
Ballroom dancing.
Oh, ballroom dancing.
Yes, sir.
Oh God. Somebody ratted on me. Well, I was in a cell, and I'm pretty sure Bob Purcell was the SRO, and somebody started talking about dancing or something, and I guess I had told some of my friends, and they were in the cell. There were like 50 of us in the cell. Told some of my friends that when I was in high school, I had been an Arthur Murray dance instructor. I'd taken dance lessons, or you know, ballroom dancing, as in junior high school. When I got to 9th grade, I got sort of promoted to being an instructor and learned how to be an instructor. The people that taught it, it was actually Skilly's studio of dancing, and my dad thought it'd be a really good thing for me to learn ballroom dancing. It was wonderful back in the day, in the 50s, 40s and 50s. So anyway, I had learned ballroom dancing. I learned how to instruct and teach ballroom dancing. So Purcell and some guys came to me and said, "Can you teach us ballroom dancing?" I said, "Well, I can teach you steps and stuff, I guess, but you know, there's no music." And so Percy said, "Well, we'll figure that out. We'll get somebody to sing along a song or something like that." So I said, okay. So I had the attention of everybody in the room. So they put me up at a place and I demonstrated the foxtrot steps and I demonstrated waltz and I demonstrated, you know, tango and a few other things that you do. And I said, but here's the deal, guys. You're going to have to dance with each other if you're going to learn how to dance. So that everybody was up for it. So great. So had all these guys in the room, you know, and I was teaching them. One would have the lead and the other would play the part of the woman, and then they'd switch, you know. And fortunately, in teaching ballroom dancing, I learned how to teach from the standpoint of both the man's steps and the woman's steps, because I'd have to, in teaching, I'd have to stop a couple and take the woman aside and say, now here's what I want you to do, you know, this. And, or I'd maybe even take a female position with a guy who was throwing his, you know, his partner around and say, no, you got to relax this hand up here, you know, you got. And so anyway, I taught ballroom dancing. Well, the Vietnamese saw this going on, you know. They weren't beating up on us. This is in the last days of the, I guess the last year or two that we were there. The Vietnamese saw this, and we would get started with my ballroom dancing lessons, and here would be 50 guys, you know, going around the room to a song, and we'd have all across the bars, you know, where the door and everything, and we'd have all the guards and all the interrogators up there watching this thing, you know, go on. I guess I was instructing them too, I don't know. But anyway, some of the guys still remember that ballroom dancing thing. I guess I got ratted on by somebody, I don't know who. Mike McGrath, of course. Of course, Mike. Yeah.
Being fighter pilots, most of them were really self-conscious about being the female, right? So
yeah, oh yeah, they didn't want to do that, yeah, but you got to do both, yeah.
A lot of them wanted to dance with Percy because he was the best at being the female.
I don't know. I don't want to get into that.
Well, that's a wonderful, wonderful story, and I can't thank you enough. Your thoughtfulness, your absolute perspective is just incredible. What an incredible contribution.
Thank you, and thank you, Bill.
Thank you. One thing
And Carrie,
we have
thank
to
you.
do is we have to do 30 seconds of room tone. I don't know if you've ever done this before. We have to record the sound of the room in case they need to add a little bit of silence. They can't cut in true silence because it would dip out to nothing. So we just have to sit here for 30 seconds.
Okay.
So this is 30 seconds of room tone, Phil Butler interview.